Welcome back to Talking Footy. Brad Scott, the North Melbourne football coach, has got them into prelim finals in the previous 2 years. Didn't quite work out the way he would have wanted to at the end of this season. He's been good enough to join us on Talking Footy. Welcome to you, Brad.
Thanks, Stars. Thanks, guys.
Stuff we need to get through, obviously, some issues late in the year with North Melbourne. Then we want to get to your thoughts on the upcoming final series. But what do you want to take us away?
Well, I want to start with the Boomer Harvey thing. Now, I don't think anybody here thought that it was going to be easy to retire Boomer Harvey or the other players, but specifically Boomer. Can you just take us through how that transpired? Because it's been reported that Boomer really said, OK, he needed to have an answer straight away. Is that how it worked? And you're thinking going through that process, or how long you've been talking to him about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't have said he wanted an answer straight away. We had ongoing discussions over a number of years because Boomer's signed 7 one-year contracts. So around 17, 18 every year we've sat down and had a discussion about his future. It was probably a little bit earlier this year because we were talking about the team in general. And one of the things I stressed to Boomer and to Drew at the same time was just where the team was at was going to be really important to the decision going forward. Their individual form was obviously going to be important to a level, but it wasn't going to be the deciding factor. It was going to be more about where the team was. And so as the season got towards the close, Boomer was really keen to know. And the questions kept coming more and more often. And I always gave him a commitment that when I knew, I'd tell him. And I'd be upfront with him because honesty and integrity in this game is paramount. But then once I told him, we sat down as a club and said, well, once a number of people know now, we really have to release this. Now, certainly in hindsight, we were really disappointed as to the way that was messaged to our members because it came as a huge shock to a lot of people, and so we were really disappointed that there was messaged the way it was. But in terms of the players themselves, Boomer in particular, he doesn't feel disrespected in any way, shape or form. In fact, he wanted to know, and I think he was really pleased with the honesty.
So it wasn't an ultimatum, wasn't I need to know? No,
but he really did want to know.
Okay, so given your time again, and now you obviously told him, given your time again, would you wait until after the finals? Do you think you could have been stronger there and said, okay, well, maybe not Boomer, with all due respect, the team's bigger than where I know it's a big decision for you, but the team's bigger.
No, I think I remember what it was like playing, and the relationship between player and coach is critical. But to be perfectly honest, if I had my time again, I still would have told him because I gave him that commitment that I'd tell him. But I probably would have said, mate, it's not the time now to announce it. We've got a final series to go into. So you've got some clarity around the situation, but for the club's sake, we need to announce this post-season.
Scott, is a feeling that really derailed your season? There was so much talk and so much speculation, and then you're in the position as a coach. We've got 4 players that aren't going on, but they're also the motivation to try and play well in a final. That feels like the impossible task as a coach. Was that the case?
No, it certainly didn't derail our season. And the 4 players involved really played a leading role in making sure all the players' focus was where it needed to be. And I think they did a really good job of that. They held up their end of the bargain in terms of their performance in finals. And look, potentially it could have been a distraction, but I think the players led by Boomer handled that really well.
Do you expect Boomer Harvey to play on with someone else next season?
I'm not sure.
Do you think he should?
I think he's playing well enough to play on. I think he's said that a number of times, and a lot of people have said that. But as I said earlier, the deciding factor was more about where the team was at and where North Melbourne needs to go. I mean, the very easy decision for me personally and for the club would have been just to let the boys play on and just roll on. And then who knows where the club would be in 2020, 21, etc. And it wouldn't be in a good spot. So I've always said that I'll do the right thing by the North Melbourne Football Club, and that extends to coaches, to players, all the way through. And if we want to be that sort of football club, then no one's bigger than the club.
There's been a lot of talk about Daniel Wells and where he's going to be playing his football next year. Do you anticipate that to be at Arden Street? Have you had a one-on-one chat with him?
I have, but right at the moment he's in contractual negotiations with the club. So, I mean, clearly as coach, I'd love Daniel Wells to be playing for us next year, and he knows that. He knows his importance to our team. But he's an unrestricted free agent. So, the environment we're in now, he's entitled to explore his options, and the club has to put its best offer to him, and hopefully he stays. But he certainly knows where he stands with me as coach.
When are you expecting to hear from him or find out from him one way or the other?
I'm not sure, Tim, to be honest. The unrestricted or the free agency trade window opens up after the grand final, so it'll be some time between now and then, but I don't have any clarity on that.
What about Jared Waite? He's in the same boat. You know, obviously missed a lot of footy in the second part. He's only ever really played one full season in his whole career. Is that more a decision for Steve Saunders than it is for yourself?
Yeah, certainly the advice we take medically around the player health is critical, and the feedback that we've had on Wadey is that he'll be fully fit. And we know in the first half of the year how well he played. Now, in terms of him having a full season, we know the level he can play at. So we're really keen to make sure that there's some solidarity and experience around our young key forwards, because we have been to the draft basically every year for a decade. You know, we've taken essentially our first, second and third draft picks every year for 10 years. Now, we certainly brought in some free agents to help Harvey, Wells, Petrie, Ferrito, those sort of guys. And, you know, we played in 4 of the last 5 final series as a result. But the notion that we traded away our future for our present is just false. But everyone's going to have their view on that. But those who just scratch slightly beneath the surface know that we've taken our picks every year for a decade.
So where do you think you're at right now then as a club? Are you going through, I think your chairman said you're going through a reset position, or you're going through a rebuild, or you're transitioning?
It starts with R.
I don't know what the buzzword is anymore, but where do you think you're at right now? Do you have to go backwards a little bit to go forwards again, or do you not think that?
No, I think it probably depends on the rest of the competition to a certain extent. I mean, we've got fantastic opportunity for our young players now, and I can tell you that in our exit interviews, all our young players sense fantastic opportunity, and they're extremely excited about what next year and beyond holds for them, and certainly for the team. You know, we think that we have been building probably out of the public eye to a certain extent, because our senior players have been playing and playing well up until this point. But there are some young players there that we're really excited about.
Is Majak one of those? He clearly will get more opportunity now.
Yeah, he does. I mean, we saw that through Jared Waite's injury, he got opportunity. And, you know, Wadey was 50-50 to play in that first final, but really the thing that probably tipped the scales for not playing Wadey was the form that Majak was in. And he kicked 4 goals in that final, and some continuity was really good for him. So we expect he'll get that now, and with a really clear run at it and injury-free, then I think he's going to be really exciting for us.
Well, we're talking your future, Brad. That's been speculated about as well. 2 years to go at North Melbourne, and there's been links that Brisbane, given they need a coach and your history there, that would be an offer. And I think David King, former North Melbourne champion himself, had this to say about exactly that.
It's a complete rebuild. You can call it what you like. It's a complete rebuild. Why would you go again with Brad? Why wouldn't you look to get a new coach in, a full fresh start, Brayshaw moving on? It's the perfect time. He could go to Brisbane and sign up for another 4 or 5 year period up there. It's a win for Brad, and it'd be a win for the club.
Does that enter your mind at all?
No, I've always been fully committed to North Melbourne. I've been at the club for a fair period of time now. I've invested enormously in the club, and they've invested in me as a young 33-year-old coach at the time. I'm contracted for a further 2 years, and I've always maintained I'll do the best thing for North Melbourne, and while they think that's me, then that's where I'll be.
Are you offended by that? David King almost alluding that if it is a rebuild, you're potentially not the right man to do that. Does that offend you?
No, not at all. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. You know, but I think that history probably says that, you know, you look at some teams this year who have changed coaches and built their list back up. They probably get a bit of breathing space to do that with a new coach.
Scott, there's a lot of personal wax at you around the handling of that. A lot of journos are saying you botched it. It was not a great look for you, and you derailed the club season. And you know, Damien Barrett had that to say on the AFL website. Does any of that penetrate after a while? Do you sit there on the inside and say people have got this horribly wrong? Did that affect you at all?
No, my biggest concern was Boomer and the players involved. And my firm belief is that if you act with honesty and integrity and have the players' best interests at heart, then you'll be able to sleep well at night. And look, no doubt the messaging to the members didn't go as we would have liked. But in terms of the relationship with the players involved and the honesty and integrity that was shown, I have absolutely no issue with that.
Can I ask you one last one on player movement? I know we've spoken about a fair few players on your list. A lot of clubs have what they would say they're untradeables or what they would say it is. But is Todd Goldstein an untradeable player?
Yeah, we call this silly season for a reason. I mean, look, as coach, we've got an All-Australian ruckman that we worked, or the list management team worked really hard to re-sign for a long period of time. So, like Barmy's comments before, I don't think trading away your good players is a good plan, especially one that's coming into the prime of his career like Goldie is.
Can I just go back to that messaging you were talking about before and just clarify one thing? Who was responsible then for that messaging that didn't go out correctly to the members?
Oh, it's a club-wide decision. You know, when you're messaging to the public, then you get your key figures of your club together and make a decision the way forward. Now, at North for a long time, I've probably been the spokesperson, and you know, potentially we need to spread the load there a little bit and get some other people to speak on behalf of the club. But yeah, in terms of what we were concerned about were the players first and foremost, and we would have done that differently had we had our time again. But you know, our members were clearly really disappointed, and that disappoints us because they're our lifeblood. That's what we're here for, to play for our members. So the fact that they were really disappointed us.
Brad, I want to get your insight into the prelim finals coming up and the rest of the season. In your mind, who's the best team left in it?
People say I'm biased, but I still think Geelong have the absolute firepower to get the job done. History says you win your first final, you get another home final, you get all the good breaks, you get all the advantages that being the top team affords you. But I think that you guys were talking in the earlier segment about the bye before the finals, and I think that it gives teams a really good chance to rejuvenate. So all the teams left now are in really good physical shape. The Bulldogs are playing the best footy they've played all year. Same with GWS, in my opinion. So it's a really open race, and we saw what Sydney did in the first quarter last week. So everyone said all year it's going to be a really open final series, and I think that's still the case.
You and Chris share any IP this time of year? Are you able to say, hey, this worked really well for us against the Swans? Is that something you think about or not?
Well, I can tell him what not to do in the second half of the year. We haven't exactly set the world on fire. No, I think he's got a really good team around him. We very rarely talk about other teams because there's this perception that senior coaches run the show at footy clubs these days. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. There are so many coaches. So there's nothing that I could tell Chris that he wouldn't already know.
Is that a midfield battle, though, that game? Is that where it's won and lost? I can't believe I'm saying that, Tim, because there are some pretty talented forwards. Well, there's some pretty talented forwards, Hawkins and obviously Buddy at either end, and Heaney and others. But is it won and lost in the midfield, you reckon?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, but as an ex-teammate of yours and mine, Duck, once said, you can't kick it to yourself. So you need a midfield to get on top. Yeah. And you know, whoever's midfield can get on top, they've both got the firepower up forward to cause some serious damage. But what's probably undersold with both these teams is they defend really well. And you know, if you can win the midfield battle, it tends to protect your defence as well.
Is there much difference between coaching against Beveridge or Cameron in the coaching box itself?
I've never considered the fact that you're coaching against another coach. You're coaching against another team. Right. And when you make moves or you set up a structure, you're there really to counter the opposition players, not necessarily the coach. So, no, I think that you know, all teams know each other pretty well. So both coaches will know what they need to do. Come game day, it's a matter of execution.
Expect to play finals next year, Brad?
Again, I think it's a simple answer, but it depends how much better everyone else gets. You know, we'll have our challenges to get better in terms of personnel. There's no hiding away from that fact. But never underestimate the exuberance of youth. And we'll certainly bring some youth in, and they'll be really excited to get their opportunity. Is
that all about, for the Kangaroos, speed on the outside? I mean, you know, Zeeble, Cunnington, Swallow, all similar types. And if Wells does happen to leave the club, then that's what the club's lacking.
Yeah, and I think last year's draft we brought in Ryan Clark, Corey Wagner, Declan Mountford, you know, Mitchell Hibberd, who all elite endurance athletes, got some speed on the outside. Now they're going to be really young next year, but the exciting thing for them and for us is they'll get their opportunity.
One last one from me. You flagged a potential change in the captaincy, I think, last season. Do you foresee that happening this year, or a decision hasn't been made?
No, a decision hasn't been made, and we'll have to go through a really thorough process in consultation with our players. But certainly something we flagged is that we would like to have succession while the current captain's still playing. And Andrew is well aware of that, and he's fully supportive of that. So whether that happens in the short term, medium term, we're yet to determine that, but it will happen at some point.
Are you a career coach, Brad? Is this the job for you for life?
I love what I do. I love what I do, but I'm also conscious that this game is all-consuming. It takes up every minute of your time, and work-life balance is always something that I think coaches have to work on. And I've got a young family and other priorities in life as well. But I'm only 40 years of age. I think while I'm loving doing it and can fully invest, then that's what I want to do.
A few people nervous about you coming on tonight, Brad. They shouldn't have been. As always, you handled yourself with pure class. We appreciate your time. Good luck for next year.
Thanks, Das. Thanks, guys.